One of my favorite quotes is, "Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the conquest of it." Hi, my name is Kaila Kane. I am Filipino, Japanese, and Peruvian. I'm from University of Tampa. I recently just graduated, and I crossed Fall 21 from the Sigma Beta chapter, the Studying Sigma Beta chapter.
Well, you come with an impressive background. I know you were heavily involved in undergrad, and I would say congratulations on your recent graduation.
Thank you.
Um, so, as a co-founder of the Asian and Pacific Islander Association, what inspired you to create this space on campus, and how has it impacted the population on the campus?
So, coming in as my freshman year at the University of Tampa, there was only one Asian related organization on campus that was student led, which was like an anime club. But I found that there were no Asian organizations that promoted or at least celebrated all different types of Asian background. And coming from various ethnical backgrounds and cultures, I wanted to be able to embrace that, not from just Sigma Lambda Gamma from our multicultural sorority, but also just an organization that could also be able to include and support all students from UTampa. And that was a space that was kind of not, it wasn't really prominent on our campus. And so my sophomore year, that was when my friend had brought up the idea to create like the first Asian Pacific Islander Association that would not only celebrate Asian students on campus, but be able to just invite everybody who wanted to celebrate Asian culture all around. And that was something that was very important. That way, not even just the students from here, but even international students who were trying to get acclimated onto our campus, make sure that they have resource and feel support. So that was something that we wanted to cultivate and strive for, and make sure that it stays consistent even after we had graduated, and which it has. So I'm really happy for them.
It's amazing. How does it feel to see something that you started take a bigger turn and actually turn into something meaningful, but bigger than you thought it would be?
I'm not surprised at all about how much it's grown because we've always had a pretty we've had a pretty prominent population of Asian student, like Asian background representation on campus. We just never had a space where we can all come together, and that was a space that was lacking for a long time. So first creating that club, our first meeting was, fully packed. There were so many students, and ever since then, different kinds of events that we would host, which it could be like on campus, like galas, which we would have like international foods and other cultural organizations come together and support each other. You see all these students coming from different backgrounds, and just seeing all these people who are meeting other students that are from different Asian backgrounds. It's so heartwarming, and you just feel so like feel fulfilled, especially because this is something that you wish that you had coming into your freshman year, not having this type of support system and community, but being able to build that for other people who are coming to Tampa is the kind of message and the kind of fulfillment that we wanted to have in the beginning. So seeing that now, like as a senior and having to have graduate, I still am really close with a lot of the e-board members and a lot of the students that are part of the club right now. And they still all have the same motivation and mission and goal to be able to continue this kind of like support system and community, because there's so many things that a lot of Asian students are capable of, and wanting to always have that community that's like what we've always grown up with, and seeing that from different cultural backgrounds and familial cultural backgrounds and all that, it's just something that we needed on campus. And you see that whenever you're coming to events, everybody just comes together, has a good time, celebrate through food and socializing.
That's amazing. That says a lot about your leadership style. Speaking of which, how has your heritage shaped your leadership style or your goals? And are there any cultural values that you bring into these roles?
Coming from a background that I've always had my family support me through any decision that I've always made, and I do have like various ethnical backgrounds, so like the Filipino side, my Japanese side, Peruvian side. I have like a little mix of like an Asian Latina side, so it just all combines together, and that's something that I obviously wanted to just cultivate and mix throughout even APIA, because I've met students that are not just Asian, but like could be from, different ethnical backgrounds. And having that kind of understanding of, you know, diversity and inclusivity, and making sure that, everybody comes from a different background, is able to help me have a more dynamic character, and making sure that, people come from different societal expectations, and that can be led from, it can also be shown through the way that we speak, how our communication styles are. So, and that can come from, the different environments that we've grown up in. So, I'm a little bit more aware, and that's because of the different kinds of cultures I've grown up around. And that makes me be a little bit more, like I said, aware of the people that I'm interacting with and making sure that there's always an inclusive space for everybody and making sure that the community is going to support diverse perspectives and people who come from different backgrounds.
Amazing. With you holding so many roles in many organizations, SLG being one of them, what's one lesson you learned about uplifting diverse voices in Greek life?
One thing I've learned is definitely just listening, um, and to always keep an open mind because there's a lot of things that you're not going to be able to understand when it comes to people coming from different backgrounds because it's inevitable that you're going to meet somebody that you've never really understood their cultural background. So even if you've never lived in their shoes, always just support through just being present and listening. Even if it's something that somebody has to say, you can still be there to listen to them and just always having an open mind that just because you might have, you might feel indifferent or you might have contradicting viewpoints, you never know how that person has grown up their entire life. It could have been in a different environment completely, growing up from completely different cultural backgrounds that can definitely shift how our perspectives are as we grow up. So it's going to be inevitable that we're all going to have different perspectives, but it's always important at the end of the day to just keep an open mind. And, there's always going to be the beauty side of cultural backgrounds and differences. So always making sure at the end of the day to
And
celebrate
I
that.
do agree with that, especially because you're always going to meet somebody at some point that you're not going to understand because they come from a different cultural background. But to be able to listen and hear them out, but also respect their views and have compassion, I think it's the most important thing of all. But it's also beautiful to see that we may be different, but we respect each other.
Yeah, and then I feel like it also just encourages you to want to learn more about that culture, especially if it's something that you realize that, oh, I never knew about that, and you're kind of more invested into understanding more about, how that cultural style may be coming from, or just wanting to know more about a culture that you're not familiar with.
Yes. I know you talked about how you'll be working in admissions. How do you hope to advocate for students in that role?
Being in a role where I'm working very closely to prospective students and admitted students, I love to promote the different organizations that we have on campus that are always striving to support and promote inclusivity and diversity of the representations that we have on campus from different backgrounds. And we have a space for everybody. And sometimes not all students realize that because maybe they don't know where to start to look for those kind of resources. So having that experience and being a part of different clubs and getting to know a lot of people throughout my years gives me that resource to share with other students. And that's why I think it's so important to get to the root of universities, which is where the students come from, which is like kind of the admission side. Because our us tour guides, like we're kind of the first face that they meet when they're coming to visit UTampa because we're giving them the tours. They're getting to meet, students for the first time, getting to understand our perspectives and opinions. So it's really refreshing to give them, the kind of relief that not just the students want to hear, but even the parents, making sure that there is going to be a space for them to feel welcome to coming to university. And it's really nice because I've met a lot of students, or even a few students who I met from tours and getting to go travel for admissions. And I meet prospective students looking to be committing or just admitted students in general that are coming to the school in the following semester. And I see them in one of the clubs that I mentioned them to them about, or like they asked me on tour and then I see them following the Instagram page, or I see them at an event the following semester. And then, they get to meet other students and it's nice to see them make those connections that we had talked about previously, which is really cool.
What's one advice you would give to younger AAPI students navigating college and leadership?
Just always stay true to yourself because there's always going to be times where you might feel lost or there's so many different identities that you can be involved with, especially because you're open now to so many new opportunities and faces and people. It's easy to get absorbed into one area just because it might seem like where everybody's moving towards or what seems like the popular thing to start in college. But at the end of the day, when you're starting fresh into leadership roles and gaining new experience, think back on, the core values that you have and how you can be able to strengthen those values through the things that you love, the things that you're passionate about, and making sure that you're always surrounding yourself with those types of environments and people. And so that way, you can just continue growing yourself throughout those roots that you've always held, even before college. And I feel like through that, you'll always keep a part of yourself, even as the years that you grow. So at the same time, it's not kind of like you've completely changed, but you've just grown to you know, just a more evolved, enlightened person of all these experiences that you've now had. But yeah, at the end of the day, just staying true to yourself and remembering the things that you love and what kind of environments that you want to stick to, and just start with the small stuff, and then eventually you'll find your way.
Why SLG and how has that kind of changed the trajectory of your life in a sense?
Mhm. So why SLG? Well, I came from a small town. I knew everybody. I knew the entire town that I lived in growing up. So coming to a whole new state, school, I didn't know anybody, and I wasn't really comfortable in joining a sorority in the beginning just because the whole idea of a big sisterhood, it wasn't really interesting to me, especially because like I've always known my close-knit friends and that was it. And I had, my acquaintances and all of that, but I didn't need all these people just to feel fulfilled. However, with joining SOG, the one distinct thing that definitely popped out to me was the fact that it represented people from all different backgrounds, and coming from, a family of different backgrounds, that spoke out to me. I knew I wanted to build my professionalism, my communication, public speaking. I wanted to be able to strengthen my weaknesses because I knew the things that made me uncomfortable, and joining clubs and meeting new people definitely made me uncomfortable, but that was the only way for me to grow. So I had to kind of push myself there. I also knew one of the members already in the sorority because we actually went to the same high school. So I saw her cross, and she was also from a different ethnical background, and I was surprised that she joined a sorority. I didn't know that there were multicultural sororities, so I never knew that was a thing, and I was surprised that she had joined one. So then when she told me about like how it's multicultural, there's, different ethnical backgrounds that are represented, different things that are able to support women through all these different like events, I was more interested in it. So when I saw them in person and I got to meet a lot of the sisters, I thought it was really cool. So in the beginning, I didn't really know like what it all meant, like what was it all for, but getting to know about the different principles and how they're executed through various events, the philanthropy, there was obviously something like a mission, a goal that we were always striving for, and being able to provide that kind of environment for students who are also looking for spaces that they can just flourish in no matter what their ethnical background is, their race, their cultural background, there was always going to be that from SLG. And that was something that kind of, it kind of just swayed me towards them. And it's always about the people at the end of the day. So even the people themselves, like even without just the sorority in general, just the people themselves made me feel welcomed. And so being able to find that community definitely made me want to join SLG.
Now that you are a recent graduate, what do you think is next for you?
So I'm still continuing to work in admissions for the next month, but I'm actually planning on applying as an officer in the Air Force. And so I would like to get my master's and move towards an area that works towards mental rehab, especially as being a psychology major. But I also know that through taking the test for the officer application, you can also qualify for other jobs. So I'm also open to anything else that may strike me through, the tests that I receive. But yeah, I'm just also excited to travel through that and just be able to also enhance my leadership skills and hope to travel a lot.
And if you want to leave one last message for anybody out there, feel free.
Okay. One of my favorite quotes is courage is not the absence of fear, it is the conquest of it. And that's because it's something that sticks in my head because I've definitely felt fear many, many times, and I've thought that's the cue to make me not do it or make me feel like I'm not ready. But it's very normal completely. So even if it feels like gut twisting and it feels very like negative and wrong because I feel, all these negative emotions of fear. it doesn't quite mean that it's not meant for me. It's just kind of just a signal to that's exactly what I needed to that's the signal to take the next step and to put your foot forward. And sometimes that's the line that people are too afraid to cross because it's uncomfortable and people don't like uncomfort feelings. So it kind of reminds me to think that's just, courage. And it's very normal to feel uncomfortable, but you can't really have both comfort and growth. So sometimes you have to choose which one is more important.